Hey guys, it's Will here, and today I just wanted to talk a little bit about two of the most common tanks you'll see in a game of Warhammer 40k, the Rhino and the Razorback, and wanted to talk about the differences between them and why you would pick one over the other in what situations. Start with, let's take a look at what you get. So they're both armour 11 to the front and side, 10 to the rear. They're both dedicated transport choices for Space Marines that can be brought as standalone fast attack choices, but much more commonly taken as dedicateds. They're both tanks, both have access points at the side and the rear. But that's about where the similarity changes. So with the Rhino, you get a cheaper vehicle. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say points values, but yeah, the difference between these two is it's about 60% difference. I suppose until the points difference between them is 20 points to upgrade from a Rhino to a Razorback. But yeah, so the Rhino, it's a nice cheap vehicle. Weapons wise, you just get the Stormbolter on there, and you then have transport capacity 10, and this hatch here, which is a really handy feature of the Rhino actually, because it allows two models to fire out. And when you consider that this is usually carrying Space Marines who have a good selection of weapons, that's not a bad option. You know, pop two plasma guns out of the top there, or you know, if you're getting close, two flamers or two melters, which is what I tend to do with my salamanders. You know, it's not a bad little option. You also get the self-repair thing that you might only very rarely remember, but it is a nice little thing where on a 6 it can fix an immobilized result. So yeah, Rhino, a nice cheap basic transport. Now the Razorback, like I say, it's 20 points more expensive, so it's a considerable upgrade, and can get more expensive if you start buying the upgrade weapons. I mean, this one here has the heavy bolter, but you can swap it out for a variety of other things. Las Cannon is the only other one you get on the sprue, but you can also get an assault cannon, multi-melters, heavy flamers, las cannon with plasma gun, and finally the assault cannon, which is probably the best weapon for it, but unfortunately you don't get on the sprue, so you have to buy that separately. But yeah, so you get a nice big upgrade gun, and twin heavy bolter is not a bad weapon. It's not, you know, a game changer, but you know, you get enough of these that certainly make an impact against light to medium infantry. Can even threaten very lightly armoured vehicles like this boy here, the very popular Dark Eldar Venom. You know, that's going to be under threat from a heavy bolter. But the big drawbacks with the Razorback are in its ability to transport. Firstly, it doesn't have the top hatch, so nobody's firing out the top of this. And secondly, it's only capacity 6, so you can't take a full-size tactical squad or do a trick with 2 combat squads, and you can't attach many characters even if you are only a small squad. So more firepower at the loss of transport capacity. So then, here's the question: should you take them, and if so, what should you take when? As for if you should take them, absolutely. I would say that any Space Marine tactical squad that doesn't have a drop pod needs one of these, unless you've got a very specific plan in mind for it. The thing is that even if you're not looking to get around the battlefield, particularly the Rhino is so cheap, and it adds resilience to the squad, that it's almost always worth taking. So say hypothetically turn 1, you know, your squad wants to stand still and just fire its long range weapons. Well, you're likely only to have a special and a heavy, or a special and a combi for your long range weapons, or maybe just a heavy weapon. So it can stand still, 2 guys can fire out the top. Enemy fires back, and they have to actually dedicate proper, heavy weapons to this. You're not going to be able to it's completely immune to bolters, unlikely to be damaged by heavy bolters, and even, you know, takes a significant amount of strength 6 to bring it down. You've got the 3 hull points to get in some cover. You know, even a couple of squads of Eldar scatterbikes might struggle to take it down. And that's the thing, it just, all that time they're firing shots at the vehicle means they can't shoot the guys inside, and then when it does eventually get wrecked, well, you know, you've got toughness 4, 3 up armour, leadership 8 or 9, you're going to be fine getting out of this. It's not like your orcs and you're going to lose half your squad when your vehicle blows up. It's you know, you've got resilient guys in there. If you do want to move them, then even better, you know, you've got that level of protection that it provides, and then you've got the mobility. You know, you can move 6 inches and just fire off one weapon. You can move 12 and snap fire with the guys inside, or you can even go flat out and go the full 18 inches. Is it called flat out? Yeah, I think it's called flat out these days, yeah. So, you know, you've got some manoeuvrability there. In addition to that, if this is taken with a troops choice, or in certain other formations, this is going to get you a little bit of obsec. It means that even after the squad has disembarked, if they choose to do that, a mobile Rhino is still potentially a threat because of the obsec. Your enemy can't afford to ignore it, even if it's, you know, not a threat in terms of doing damage. So a solid little transport that I like to take. Now the Razorback does most of that. You know, it buys you that extra protection, so your squad isn't going to be as much under threat. It's potentially obsec. It can move you guys around, but the big drawback is you can't fire out the top. And so that, if you've got squads with special weapons, which you likely do, it means they're not being used so efficiently, and they have to actually get out to fire their weapons. Now it does make up for that because it's got its own heavy weapon mounted on the top, but obviously you're paying 20 extra points for the minimum weapon, and if you want a bigger and better one, then you're going to be paying even more points. So yeah, it does have that drawback. Squads that I think do go well in Razorbacks are small squads that really don't have much in the way of ranged firepower, but the problem there is that those type of squads tend to be, obviously if they don't have ranged firepower, they're geared up for assault, and neither of these are assault vehicles, which means they're again not going to be ideal for assault based squads. You either want to give them their own means of getting across the table, or you want to fork out for a Land Raider, and that is a completely different kettle of fish to what these guys are. I don't like running assault-based infantry units in non-assault transports. So yeah. So in a standard Space Marine Army list, a combined arms detachment, I would personally favour the Rhino in most scenarios. It's cheaper, and you don't actually lose out on the firepower of the Razorback because the guys inside bring the firepower. Now obviously you're not going to have move and fire with a twin-linked heavy bolter like you would with the Razorback, but you've got a good selection of weapons that you can have in there. You can have grav guns, plasma guns, grav cannons even, you can get a couple of shots out with on the move. And you've got the option of carrying more guys. So I personally, in a standard army list, prefer the Rhino almost every time. I've tested the Razorback out, and I find that the reduction in transport capacity and the extra points cost isn't worth the additional firepower that it gives you, even if you go for one of the upgrade weapons. If you want an assault cannon, then, you know, stick it on something else in your army. You know, have a dreadnought, it's got better armour, it can do something in combat. Or, you know, you want a twin assault cannon, then get one of those little flyers, the Storm Talon, and you've got some rockets there and a flyer as well. If you want something to haul your troops around cheaply, the Rhino. Now, the Razorback does have its place though, not in a standard combined arms detachment. I like the Razorback and a lot of people like the Razorback in the battle company list. Thing is that if you're running a battle company, you're getting all your transports for free. So the points cost suddenly goes out the window because you're either getting a free Rhino or a free Razorback, and the Razorback's worth 20 points more. So why wouldn't you take the Razorback? First and foremost, with the Devastator squads from your battle company, you want to take the Razorback because you're not actually going to put your Devastators in there. Your Devastators, even if they've got the free transport, are going to go and sit on a hill or in a building with a good line of sight and just keep shooting. So I would take the Razorback, because that can just drive around and still be a threat. You know, give it the heavy bolter, it's completely free anti-infantry fire, or upgrade it to a las cannon or las plas or assault cannon, and you've got a very cheap heavy weapons platform that is still obsec because it's in the detachment. So yeah, as for your tactical and assault squads, yes, you lose the ability to fire out at the top, but you gain the free, or often free, heavy weapon. And I think at this point, when you're not paying the cost difference, I think the Razorback is worth it, especially as, certainly in most standard games, the majority of your squads aren't going to be particularly large, because if you're paying for 2 battle companies worth of Marines and an auxiliary choice, you're going to be pushed for points, so you can't necessarily afford to take much in the way of 10-man squads. I mean, if you have got a 10-man squad in there, then there's certainly no harm in slinging in a Rhino or a drop pod. Incidentally, I'm not going to discuss drop pods in this because they're a completely different transport option that work far and away from what these guys do. You know, and the majority of your transports in a demi company should be Razorbacks. Now, the final thing I want to say is I wouldn't usually pay points for a Razorback. I'd get them for free, but I wouldn't normally pay money for a Rhino. I'd buy a Razorback kit instead. Thing is, the Razorback kit is only a couple of quid more than the Rhino, I think, but you get the parts to make both. So if I just pick this Rhino up here, tip him up, you see that top hatch, you just leave it loose, and then you take your Razorback top hatch and pop it on there, and you get the bits for both in the sprue, so you can build a vehicle that is both a Rhino and a Razorback. That way, at the point of building, you don't have to make a choice, and you can instead decide which one you're going to run based on what's in your list, whether you're running a standard combined arms detachment or whether you're running a double demi company. Anyway, that's about it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Is there something I'm completely missing with these? Am I wrong? Is there a really good reason to take lots of Razorbacks in a combined arms force? Is there a reason to take lots of Rhinos in a double demi company? Let me know what you think. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.